Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm here with the founders of Alchemy, Nikhil, who was actually our MC last year, and Joe. And thanks for being here. This is kind of weird because usually, I'm on the board of Alchemy actually, so most of our interactions are very casual, maybe at a sushi restaurant or something. But uh, just for some background, I mean, Alchemy. Some of you guys may know this already. Actually, most of you guys, but Alchemy is the top developer platform in the blockchain industry. 22 billion transactions have gone through Alchemy, and it powers 99% of the countries that use blockchain worldwide, powering most of the DeFi and NFT companies in the space. And Nikhil and Joe both have very, very impressive backgrounds coming from sort of Stanford companies like Facebook and Google, et cetera. So since we have this special occasion where it's a fireside chat with two co-founders, one question that I want to start off with is, and a lot of founders may be watching this is, what's the founder love story? How did you guys meet? I mean, you guys are both from Stanford, so I'm guessing either at the gym or competing on a test on a computer science class or something. I mean, tell me how you guys met and how did you guys sort of like figure out that you guys had to work together and do something?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Paul. So there's actually this stat that most Stanford people, I think 60% of Stanford people end up marrying other people from Stanford. So I guess this is the very same thing over here. Joe and I actually met because we TA'd the database class at Stanford. We were teaching assistants for this class, which ended up normally having 100 students, but then that quarter we taught it ended up having 120,000 students, where Stanford tried to do this massively online learning experiment, which had never been done before back in 2011. And then funnily enough, the next quarter, the class that we TA'd spun out and became Coursera, which is actually IPOing right now. So Joe and I were technically the first unpaid employees of Coursera, and we met through that and had a very similar passion for building products that we really had this dream that most kids, when they grow up, want to be a firefighter or an astronaut. I guess now it's a YouTube influencer or an Instagram celebrity, but we really wanted to build software that improved life for every person on the planet, as nerdy as that sounds. So we had a mutual vibe around that, and we had been working on products before Alchemy for many years, and then started the company together.
Great. Is that the same story, Joe, or do you have a different story?
Yep, it's the same story. It matches up. Basically, like Nikhil mentioned, we both have such a passion we've both been developers for a very, very long time. And, we want to make life better for every person on the planet. We also want to empower and enable developers. And I think that shared passion has brought us together and helped us kind of build this company together for so many years now.
All right, so I'm these guys that are watching could definitely be all investors in Alchemy down, sort of down the line. And I think every single time we talk about Alchemy, it's all about what is the big picture, what's the big vision. And compared to some of the other founders that I've met, I mean, you guys start off really high. You guys are aiming to be $1 trillion company, larger than Apple, same as Amazon, and you guys are just pushing on that vision. I mean, what is the vision in terms of what you want Alchemy to become?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about the big shifts in technology, there was the computer, then there's internet, and now there's blockchain. And for each of these big shifts, and blockchain is a shift of our lifetime, right? And because each one of these shifts happen only every 20, 30 years. So for each industry that we talked about, the internet, computer, and blockchain, they actually formed a similar way where the crucial layer of each industry was this platform that enabled other people to build applications, right? So for the computer, that was Windows OS and Mac OS that abstracted away the underlying hardware and made it possible for developers to build applications like Microsoft Word, Excel, Google Chrome, what we know computers as today. And that's what really opened up the whole industry and made it possible for everyone in the world to use computers. When you look at the internet, you see a similar thing. You have Amazon Web Services, which abstracts away the underlying complexity of HTTP and FTP and makes it really, really simple for developers to build products, right? As a result, most of the internet is powered by Amazon Web Services. When you look at Netflix or Uber or Airbnb or DoorDash, all of these companies, every time you open one of those apps, it's going through Amazon's infrastructure. And for blockchain, we had a similar view there needs to be some kind of developer platform that really makes it simple and easy for developers to create great products. Ultimately, the blockchain industry will succeed and flourish as much as normal people are able to use blockchain applications. And we see Alchemy as the kind of Archimedes lever for that. We are a layer on top of blockchain, on top of Ethereum, on top of Bitcoin, on top of Flow, different blockchains that enables developers to create great products. And for us, our big vision is we want to enable companies and developers to create products that enable normal people to use the blockchain. And when you look at Amazon Web Services or Microsoft, or Apple, all of these are trillion-dollar companies. And if blockchain becomes even a fraction of the size of the internet, we have a really exciting opportunity to help push the whole ecosystem forward.
Awesome, that's great. I think really just being that horizontal infrastructure layer gives you guys just so much upside in terms of really just enabling all these different really cool applications. But again, there's already actually really cool applications out there, and you guys are powering like almost all of them. So Joe, I want to go to you. I mean, there's a bunch of different use cases out there, and you guys see all the different use cases. You guys see a ton of data. I mean, what are some of the trends that you guys are catching right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing that is awesome about our company is, like Nikhil said, we're not, and like you said, we're not tied to the success of any specific vertical. So, we're not a specific, DeFi protocol. We're not a specific product or anything like that. The nice thing about Alchemy is we power the entire space. So we're an index on the entire blockchain space. So we've seen everything from wallets in the early days to DeFi to NFTs. We see basically the nice thing about what we do is at the end of the day, you have a lot of different applications with a lot of different use cases, but it's all built on top of the same blockchain and on top of the same infrastructure and the same APIs. So what we do is we offer that developer platform, and then anyone can build on top of that. So in the same way Amazon Web Services supports, DoorDash, which is a lot different from Uber, which is a lot different from Pinterest, which is a lot different from, all these other companies. We do the same thing where we support DeFi protocols, we support centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, NFT platforms, wallets, you name it. We basically work with all these companies.
Great. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to go into a trend that we're seeing, and it seems like new celebrities are coming out. Every single day. The Weeknd just did something by Nifty Gateway. We know about LeBron James highlight films on NBA Top Shots. We're probably going to see a whole bunch of A-listers coming out. And even BitClout sort of NFT-ish. I mean, non-fungible tokens being able to digitize media and have it be scarce and trapped on the blockchain. Bloomberg came out with a piece recently that mentioned that you guys are powering pretty much all the NFT platforms. What do you guys think about the NFT space, and Nikhil?
Yeah, NFTs are incredibly exciting right now. They are the first normal consumer application that has transcended the crypto native sphere. When you think about things like decentralized finance, or even to a degree, buying and trading Bitcoin and crypto, those are pretty tightly coupled with the kind of nerd mentality around crypto heads. And NBA Top Shot is probably the first crypto product that has adopted mainstream mass usage, right? My high school prom date texted me about NBA Top Shot, right? Like my freshman roommate from college happened to be an NBA, and he's obsessed with NBA Top Shot. So the reason that NFTs are really exciting is it applies to all industries, not just to people who are interested in finance, which is what crypto had been applied to before. So Alchemy, since that article has come out, so a little bit of context, Alchemy powers pretty much every NFT platform. There's been about $1 billion in sales of NFTs so far. Nearly all of it has gone through Alchemy. Everyone from Super Rare, Nifty Gateway, Zora, Maker's Place, OpenSea, and NBA Top Shot, we just announced like a big partnership with. So one of the really exciting things is, since that article came out, we've been absolutely flooded by some of the largest sports teams in the world with billions of eyeballs of normal people who are going to be watching and playing with these NFTs. Some of the most famous artists and musicians and actors and influencers. And some of the apps that you use on your phone, the most popular, if you go look at the App Store on the iPhone, the most popular apps there that have hundreds of millions of users, those apps are coming to us and saying, hey, how do we build on NFTs? What do we do? How do we integrate this? And the reason that's so exciting is it actually enables a new type of thing that wasn't possible before. One of the really cool things about blockchain that have not been possible in the digital world, and one of those main ones was ownership. And having the ability to say, in real life, you can say, hey, I own the actual Mona Lisa, which is really cool. You can have that appraised and someone can say, I own that. But in the digital world, you could always copy an image. And you weren't the creator or the owner of that. And now that that's possible, you tap into the human needs of scarcity, collection, and digital goods. And that enables a whole new economy. And I think we'll see NFTs as a fundamental building block that pervade every single industry in terms of consumer technology.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. We are seeing a lot of interest, and people are asking if it's a fad. I don't think it's a fad. I think it's great early momentum. It's going to change a lot along the way, but it's definitely here to stay. And you guys are a big part of that. So Joe, we've had quite a few panels already on DeFi, and some of the founders out there are doing different applications and different trends out there. But I guess maybe from the infrastructure side of things, because again, you guys are powering a lot of the DeFi applications, most of the major ones. A lot has talked about scalability. Obviously, you guys aren't at the bottom layer, but in terms of just maybe even infrastructure, dev tools, like what are you sort of seeing on the DeFi side of things, and what do we have to look forward to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So DeFi obviously is another huge space for crypto. Most people here probably know what DeFi is. If you missed some of the earlier panels, it stands for decentralized finance. And it's basically recreating all the financial infrastructure that we have, but doing it in an open, transparent, democratic way directly on the blockchain and in a digital first format, which is really, really exciting. Like we were talking about earlier, Alchemy powers a large part of the DeFi ecosystem. We work with a lot of the big lending protocols, value exchange protocols, decentralized exchanges, stable coins, basically anything out there we work with. The reason DeFi companies work with us is because at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're helping move around and they're basically dealing with large amounts of money, right? Like billions of dollars. We do 25 billion in transaction volume or so every year. The reason they work with us is because when people are moving around large amounts of money, they want to know that the service they're using and that the platform they're using, that it's reliable, that it's scalable, that it scales up to support the number of users that they have. When you look at DeFi protocols, there's blockchain scalability, but then there's also infrastructure scalability. So if you've used DeFi protocols earlier in 2020, or if you used CryptoKitties in 2017, you saw not only the blockchain start to get congested, but you also saw that the website you go to would go down, your wallet wouldn't show your tokens, you wouldn't be able to see whether your transaction went through. All that is powered not just by the blockchain, but by the infrastructure that enables access to this blockchain. So that infrastructure is what we provide. And when we work with DeFi protocols, we basically make sure that consumers get a fast experience, a reliable, always up experience. They're always able to see their balance. They're always able to do the actions that they want to do, and they're always able to access the blockchain underneath. Whereas before, they'd have intermittent access. They might see bugs. They wouldn't be able to see their balance. And that's become something that's really important for DeFi protocols.
Thank you very much. In terms of customers, I've heard stories, and it was even written in some articles, that you guys would stay up until 4 a.m. answering customer service calls and requests. And sometimes even when I'm like hanging out with you guys would be like, oh, like on your phones, like handling customer requests or making sure someone else is on it. And you guys have super high NPS scores. And obviously as a board member, I'm like, we got to scale this, because I wanted Nikhil to be able to go on a date with his prom date. But it's sort of down the line. I mean, how do you guys do it? How do you guys what do you guys think about customer service? How do you guys use that as a weapon? I mean, how do you guys think about it going forward?
Yeah, so this is interesting. There's a little bit of backstory here with Alchemy. Actually, with the previous, Joe and I built a few different companies together. And before Alchemy, we built an app. We built a lot of different consumer apps. And one of the ones we built ended up being the #1 social app in the world. We actually thought no one would use this. So we were shocked and surprised. Millions of people around the world. Ended up being this front page New York Times article where they know of me and Joe. That we will never forgive them. Anyway, one of the secret sauces that we had in terms of building products before was that we would be very close to our users. And one of the things that Joe and I did was we actually put our phone number in that app, which was called Down to Lunch. And as a result, millions of people around the world had our phone number and they would text us. We actually ended up breaking iMessage, like the actual iMessage infrastructure. And we had to email Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, to come ask him to help fix our phones. And we got a call next day from the exec team at Apple. And they're like, oh, we saw Tim's email and he wants us to help you fix this. And we found out we were one of the top 10 iMessage users in the world and got more texts than Justin Bieber. But the point of the story is not that we got more texts than Justin Bieber, but the point is that we had a really, really close relationship with all of our users, and they would just text us and we get feedback from them. And, we'd even dress up as Berkeley students and go to Berkeley and get user feedback. And that kind of rapid iteration, rather than waiting months to ship a product and get feedback, we were able to have a really, really, really good tight loop with our customers, right? We gave them a great experience and we also had a lot of real-time feedback. We took that same approach with Alchemy and with our customers. And now instead of users, they're actually developers and companies and enterprises. We have a real-time chat channel with every single one. This is one of our secret sauces. We will answer at any time of the night. I've woken Joe up at like 4 a.m. to answer a customer question. I've also, Joe and I once were moving apartments and we were driving the U-Haul and we had a customer in Vietnam at like 1 a.m. message us, and we're driving the U-Haul and like send them a photo of us like driving the U-Haul and moving stuff and answering their questions about stuff. So we really had to go above and beyond. And I think as an early stage, back in the beginning when we were an early stage company really trying to get started, having that rapid user feedback and really, really, really was key for us. The byproduct of customers absolutely loving your service and saying it's the best experience they've ever had is actually a secondary thing. That was never the goal. The goal was to make sure they have a great experience. We get really good feedback. And third was to have this kind of like high NPS score. So that's been one of the core tenets of our DNA. And it's something that we still do to this day. Joe and I still see every single customer support message that comes through.
That's awesome. No, that's a great story. And just for the record, I choose Nikhil over Justin Bieber. So I got you. And of course, at the end of this panel, we'll put your number up there so that people can contact you. Next question I have is around technology and scalability. Again, this was mentioned so many times that we're on a 56K modem right now. And we're looking at different solutions out there. Ethereum seems to be the one in the lead, but we're investors in Polkadot, Near. Solana seems to be gaining some momentum. Avalanche is gaining some momentum. I mean, how do you guys think about all these different chains, and how do you think about prioritization and things going forward?
That's a great question. So what's happened is, when you look at what we've done on Ethereum, what we've essentially done is we've enabled developers to build products they haven't been able to build before, to move faster, to redevote a lot of their engineering resources to actually building their applications and not spending time on infrastructure. What happened is a lot of these other projects, like you've mentioned, a lot of the other blockchains, people building layer 1 blockchains and people building layer 2s on top of the layer 1s, they've seen what we've done for the Ethereum space. They look at their own developer ecosystem and they think, hey, my developers need all the exact same stuff. They need developer tools, they need infrastructure. Essentially what's happening with a lot of these new blockchains and a lot of these layer 2s is, developers come into the space, they start working on the project, they start building their application, they have all these grand ideas for what they want to build, and then they're just stuck on infrastructure problems. That's kind of like if you wanted to start a technology company, you want to build a social app or whatever it is, but you spend the first 2 years of your life basically, moving computers to a server farm and like plugging stuff in, like you're not even building your application. That's the state of all these other chains today, is people are not getting to build their application. They're just focusing on infrastructure problems. So what's happening is all these chains are coming to us. I can't go into specifics quite yet because none of it's public, but all these chains are coming to us and saying, hey, can you basically take what you've done for Ethereum and build this out on our chain? So developers have the same level of support, the same, like platform, the same infrastructure, and the same developer tools that they have on Ethereum. And that's an area that we're really interested in and have a lot of conversations in right now.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I won't get you to spill any of those secrets on product strategy. One of the things that I wanted to get your feedback on, let's go Nikhil, around, just what's missing in the market right now, on the, let's say maybe on the infrastructure side, or just, if not in general, but like, what do you see are some of the gaps?
Yeah. The big challenge for developers, when you look at the life cycle of an industry, right, there's this kind of like circle of life effect where at the very bottom level, there's developers. Then there's those developers build applications or products that people use. And then at the top, there's the users, right? And ultimately, in order for crypto to succeed, you need to have those actual users have value from their products. And one thing that's really interesting is crypto and blockchain will be ubiquitous when it is no longer mentioned. And what do I mean by that? Let me explain that. So when you go to dinner, you don't say, I use a computer app I use the internet app on my computer to take me to dinner, and I use an internet app to pay for it, right? It's like, no, you got an Uber and you checked Yelp for a restaurant and then you paid on Apple Pay, right? That once the technology is no longer mentioned, then you know that the user or the consumer is getting true value from the product itself, where we're not using this because it is blockchain. We're using this because it provides utility to us in our daily life. So that is the ultimate end state. And that's when we know that blockchain will be ubiquitous, widely valuable, and which will obviously increase the prices of all of their cryptocurrencies. So the question is, how do we get there? And that the most important piece in getting there is building that bottom layer, right? And the two kind of most important pieces of that, the developer experience, is the actual chain itself, which a lot of great teams are working on, some of the ones you just mentioned, and then the developer tooling. And Alchemy as a company is focused purely on that developer tooling layer. How do we provide an infrastructure and developer platform so that all the busy work that developers have to do, all the really difficult technical challenges that are, like Joe talked about, just required, it's like knock over my computer, just required to actually get an app up and running, that is the most difficult part. Because if you can decrease the friction of doing that, you can help more people build better applications and create new products that they couldn't do before. So that really is the Archimedes lever, which will grow the whole industry. And there's a lot of different great companies working on that in different parts of that stack. And Alchemy has a very, very broad base there. And our whole focus as a company is, how do we make developer experience better for the people who are building a blockchain?
That's awesome. For a second there, I thought you were like running out the door trying to get to a customer service request. So I'm glad we still have you here. So I'm going to get into one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing for blockchain companies, and it's one of those where, as a board member, I'm constantly offering my time and services to really just help with the recruiting process. I think things are maybe getting, you guys you'll tell me, but like, things may be getting a bit better now that, the price of Bitcoin is high and people are excited and can pay more money and things like that. But I just remember like phone calls of people from legacy companies, Facebook and Google, trying to educate them on the space and convince them on, what's going on and why it's exciting. And so, in terms of hiring, how are you guys seeing, hiring, in the past and now sort of now in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we've been incredibly lucky, Nikhil and I. We have an amazing team of former founders, graduates from other top universities, people from basically the usual suspects, like you mentioned, Facebook, Google, other top companies. At the end of the day, I think there are a few different parts. One of them is education, right? This is a new space. What that means is there aren't a lot of people with experience, but on the other hand, it means someone can jump into the space really quickly. So we've had a lot of luck, a lot of success, not just with people who are already in the crypto space, but also like excellent, fantastic, engineers, product people who worked at other companies not in the crypto space, and basically bringing them in, and then bringing them up to speed on the crypto, on crypto and the crypto ecosystem. So that's been an area that we've had a ton of success in. The other thing I'd say is, at the end of the day, for anyone who's thinking about, starting an organization, starting a company or something like that, Nikhil and I and the entire team, we focused really hard on keeping an incredibly high bar and making sure we only hire people that we're super excited about. The saying goes, A players hire A players, but B players hire C players. So what a lot of organizations see is when they start to lower the bar a little bit, the bar gets progressively lower because people start to hire people that make them feel good and not necessarily people that are, incredible and challenge themselves. So those are two things that I would consider if I'm starting a company today.
Thank you so much. I have two more questions. I'm gonna throw one more to Joe, and then I'm gonna finish off with Nikhil. So Joe, in terms of company building, I mean, this is the second company, we won't count the data company as one. We'll just count this as the same sort of, second phase. And the first company was a traditional social tech company. I mean, what are the differences that you've seen from, obviously you're a bit older now in the second phase, but like, company building in phase one versus company building in phase two?
Yeah. So the crypto space is the most exciting space that we built a company in. And the reason for that is it's all new. Everyone's starting to figure things out. I'd say the biggest difference between building in the crypto space today and building in, something like consumer social or traditional enterprise SaaS or something else is, in the latter category, there are already all these playbooks. You have all these business models that you can kind of base your business model off of. There are a lot of best practices. In the crypto space, are there those things? Yes, but at the same time, the space is evolving so fast. Everyone's trying to figure out, what do we do with tokens? How do we work in protocols? How do we think about, DAOs? How do we think about decentralized governance, things like that? I think the most exciting thing and probably the most different thing is, everybody in the space is trying to figure this out. What that means is, there aren't any rules yet. There's not yet a playbook, but at the same time, you can really put your stamp on how things are done. You can think from first principles how to best do the things you want to do, and then you can go on and you can execute that. So I think it's really blue skies right now for every company in the crypto space in terms of figuring out their path forward.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The space is moving so quickly, and I think as an entrepreneur, in terms of strategies, company building, like you just have to be really quick, and but it's also a lot of fun. So I think the last question that I have, I'll just throw it to Nikhil, and also at the end, Joe, you can chime in too. Is you guys have done a great job at fundraising. Like usually, I have to spend a lot of time, calling investors, convincing people, hey, these guys are great. What they're trying to build is really substantive, but it's an easy sell because you guys are just personable, and the company the use case just kind of sells itself. So I think fundraising has been not too big of a challenge for you guys, but I think in general, I mean, how do you guys think about choosing your investors along the way? You've raised a few rounds out there. What do you guys look for? And specifically, I guess since I am on your board, like how has the relationship been so far with Pantera?
Yeah, so a couple things actually. Alchemy's we've been very, very lucky. We've run, I think, advice to any of the founders listening, run as lean as possible. Joe and I didn't take salary for several years, and we took 30K, then we took 70K, and then we're like, we're rich, and everyone's like, you're not rich. And we're like, no, we are rich. And they're like, no, you're not, you're making like less than like a new grad from Facebook, right? And having that lean mentality put us in a position where we never needed to go out and fundraise. Every single round we've done has been inbound. And as a result, we've gotten to work with some of the best in the world, just like, like Pantera. And I think one of the, as from the founder perspective, the things you look for in great investors, and to be clear, we've had our pick from, we have Stanford University, we have Coinbase, we have the chairman of the board of Google, we have Charles Schwab, a whole laundry list of like very
Jay-Z.
One of the two of the people, I guess three of the people I can say we are the most grateful for unequivocally, and this is not just because we're on the show, but has been Dan, Paul, and Joey. They have been, from the founder perspective, what you want to look for is you want to look for investors who are super supportive no matter what, will always help you out, will always back you up, will always be there for you. And that really is the most important thing. And I think not only does Paul, Joey, and Dan do that to the max, which sounds like a very obvious thing, but there are a lot of investors who don't, and I think that this is a very, very special thing to have someone who will unequivocally back you up and support you. On top of that, being really connected in the blockchain space, having really great thoughts on strategy, helping you recruit. Paul, Joey, and Dan have done all of the above to the max and cannot speak highly enough. We had our pick of whichever firm we wanted to go to, and we chose Pantera for a reason. Joe and I advise a ton of different companies, and we always recommend, if you're in blockchain, Pantera is the absolute no-brainer. And we say that not because we're on this podcast or on this conference, but because we truly mean that, and we've been very grateful and very humbled and lucky to get to work with Pantera.
Awesome.
Yep. I was just gonna add also, just like, cannot speak highly enough of Dan, Paul, Joey, Franklin, the entire Pantera team. Like Nikhil said, we have a ton of awesome investors. Chairman of the board of Google, like founders of all these multi-billion-dollar companies. But the team that we end up doing a weekly call with, regularly is the Pantera team. So we wouldn't be here without Pantera today. I think at the end of the day, like, we're super grateful and lucky and excited to be working with you guys.
Yep. And yeah, I guess also add on to that, when I say Paul, Dan, and Joey, I also mean Franklin and Lauren and everyone else on the team. Stellar team all around.
Thank you so much, guys. I mean, I really didn't tell them to say that, but those are very kind words. I think that's the end of our panel. I really want to sort of congratulate you guys for spending time with us. And again, Alchemy, if you are a developer or an investor interested in learning more about the space, feel free to reach out to them. And I will pass it over to Dan for closing remarks.